surface. So it wouldn't be handicap accessible or anything like that,
No.
unfortunately.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Bellbrook City Council, July 8, 2019. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pam, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Greenwood.
Here.
Mr. McGill.
Here.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Here.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson.
Here.
And Mayor Schwaller.
Here. Thank you. Does any member of council have any corrections or additions to the regular city council meeting minutes of our last meeting?
No, Mayor.
Seeing none, the minutes are approved as submitted. Mayor announcements, special guest. Tonight we have none. We do have a public hearing of ordinance 2019-13.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2019-13, an ordinance authorizing the city manager / finance director to submit the tax budget for fiscal year 2020 to the Greene County Auditor. Whereas the city is required to prepare and submit the tax budget for 2020 to the Greene County Auditor no later than July 20th, 2019, following a public hearing. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains, Section 1, that the tax budget for the fiscal year 2020 as attached hereto be approved for submission to the Greene County Auditor to guarantee the city's eligibility for the allocation of local government funds in 2020. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law. This was introduced at our last council meeting. Melissa, do you have anything that you wanted to add? I know we talked about it.
No, basically, this is just the first pass at the budget, which allows us to plug in the property tax figures that we receive for the county. So these are the estimates that we will receive in 2020, and they're usually very close, almost to the dollar as to what we receive. So those are all plugged in, and it just demonstrates how we use those dollars just to be able to justify the need for those.
Any further discussion on council?
No.
Given this is a public hearing, does anyone in the audience care to speak out with regards to ordinance 2019-13? Seeing no one coming forward, I declare this public hearing adjourned. Can we have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2019-13.
I'll second.
Done.
A motion was made by Mr. Edwards to adopt ordinance 2019-13, an ordinance authorizing the city manager, finance director to submit the tax budget for fiscal year 2020 to the Greene County Auditor. This was seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller?
Yes. We have no introductions of ordinances this evening, but we do have 4 resolutions. The first one, Mr. Greenwood, Resolution 2019-R.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 2019-R. A resolution approving an agreement for the appointment of Stephen M. McHugh as the city's municipal attorney. Whereas the section 7.09 of the Bellbrook City Charter requires the appointment of the municipal attorney, and whereas the agreement made with Amy Blankenship at the May 13th, 2019 City Council meeting is unable to be fulfilled due to a recent change in her employment. And whereas Stephen M. McHugh is an attorney at law admitted to the practice of law in the state of Ohio and is in good professional standing. And whereas the city wishes to appoint Stephen M. McHugh as the city's municipal attorney. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the attached one-year agreement for the employment of Stephen M. McHugh as municipal attorney for the city of Bellbrook effective July 9th, 2019 is hereby approved. That this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. I Googled him. He's a super attorney. I guess that's a status that attorneys can achieve. Not attorney, super lawyer it's a term that I wasn't really familiar with, but he looks like he's pretty good.
You know, he's spoken at a number of the elected official events at Sinclair Community College. In fact, he was one who was speaking at the time that kind of talked about having our emails. That's we got separate city emails set up for, as you've been around as long as I have, to know when that was. But he seems very knowledgeable. I think he represents City of Beaver Creek and a handful of
Trotwood.
other cities.
Beaver Creek, Trotwood, and Butler Township.
And Amy, I think, at one point in time worked for him, so I think we're getting a far more experienced person. Not that it's any probably difference in quality, but at the same rate, so.
40 years of experience. He's come extremely highly recommended. He works for the same firm and honored the same price that we were going to pay the other attorney. So
Okay.
ended up, I think, working out just fine. So it was unexpected, but we were able to come up with a solution. So
Any more discussion on Resolution 2019-R? Can I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make the motion to adopt resolution number 2019-R.
Second.
Second by Darrell.
A motion was made by Mr. Greenwood to adopt Resolution 2019-R, a resolution approving an agreement for the appointment of Stephen M. McHugh as the municipal attorney, and this was seconded by Mr. McGill. Mr. Greenwood.
Yes.
Mr. McGill.
Yes.
Ms. Edwards.
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson.
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Next, Resolution 2019-S, a resolution amending the solid waste recycling contract with Rumpke. Mr. McGill.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 2019-S, City of Bellbrook, Ohio, a resolution amending the solid waste and recycling contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated. Whereas the City of Bellbrook entered into a contract agreement with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated effective January 1, 2018, to provide solid waste and recycling services to the city. And whereas the state of Ohio enacted an increased tax on gasoline and diesel fuels, which went into effect July 1, 2019, and whereas the additional tax will be incurred by Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated, and therefore will require an increase in the current contract cost that the city agreed to pay, and whereas the increase per customer per month will be an additional 9 cents, and all of the terms of the contract shall remain unchanged. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into the attached contract amendment between the City of Bellbrook and Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated, effective July 1, 2019. And Section 2, this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. And the document itself, there's an amended contract here, which basically goes to just the following, which I reiterated. Effective July 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2022, an additional 9 cents per unit per month will be applied to the monthly unit price provided by Rumpke for each year of the contract, and any additional option year entered into by the parties. And this was derived from the 2019 Ohio Transportation Budget Bill that includes the increased tax beginning July 1st, 2019. And it appears that it's just a pass-on application for the fuel use tax that went into place. Here in
correct. And
Ohio.
just so council understands the magnitude or not of this, it's going to equate it out to about $243 a month, based on the number of customers that we have on our trash service. So it's small. And you have to think we're on the receiving end of that gas tax as well, so it's only fair that we pay our fair share for this part. So it's nothing that the budget can't handle, so.
Any more discussion regarding Resolution 2019-S?
We are adding that to the monthly bills, right? No.
We increased rates $1 already this year.
Okay.
So there's no need for us to increase rates. Since it's only $243 a month total across the entire customer base, it doesn't warrant any kind of a rate
Okay.
adjustment.
So it's absorbed in that dollar increase already?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Any more discussion? We have a motion for Resolution 2019-S.
Motion here, Grand, for 29S, that we approve it, please.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion was made by Mr. McGill to adopt Resolution 2019-S, a resolution amending the solid waste and recycling contract with Rumpke of Ohio, Inc. This was seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller?
Yes. As we move through the alphabet, we're now to Resolution 2019-T. Mrs. Middlestetter.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 2019-T, a resolution authorizing the city manager to adjust the pay scales of city positions not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Whereas the city of Bellbrook wishes to adjust the pay scales for city positions which are not covered by collective bargaining agreement. And whereas the city reviews wage rates for its employees on an annual basis. And whereas the wages of certain employees will fall outside the new pay scales and ranges for certain positions, and the city manager shall have the authority to adjust those specific wages as necessary, including one-time lump sum payments. And whereas the pay scales for elected officials, the clerk of council, and the city manager will not be adjusted, and whereas the city wishes to incorporate the wage provisions into the general personnel policies of the city. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to adjust the wages for certain positions per the attached pay scales and ranges effective August 1, 2019. Section 2, that the attached pay scales and ranges be approved as presented. Section 3, that the city manager has the authority to adjust the wages of certain employees that fall outside the new pay scales and ranges for their positions as necessary, including one-time lump sum payments. Section 4, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. Okay.
So the wage scales that are attached in the one page to the resolution reflect a 2.75% increase, so that's been consistent with years past. That's also what the collective bargaining units will receive as of August 1st, so it just gives everyone the same amount of increase, all of the employees across the board. So it should be noted, though, that I know that this year and even in 2018, our salaries are a bit lower, just because of the turnover that we've had. We've had a lot of higher paid employees that have left and have been replaced with lower paid employees. So even with this increase, our salaries, when we go through the budget for 2020, are still going to be lower as they were this year from the year previous. So
And this was budgeted, right, the 2.75 was our budget?
correct.
The thing that struck me was the one-time lump sum payment. We haven't had that for anybody else.
No, I left that in there, but I think that there may be one employee that falls outside of the pay scales at this point. So that's there for that purpose. I think that there were at one point 3 or 4 employees, and they're all gone at this point. So we have one that's outside of the pay scale. So that's just an option, and I left it in there. So if that were to happen, it would be, the same percentage just given to that employee on one of their paychecks.
So that their salary would not continue to increase, it just
No,
would be.
nope.
Okay.
And I know that that's happened, it seems as if it had happened where an employee, the one that I know of, an employee was promoted and then the employee changed classification, but their pay was still at a higher classification even though they were now in a lower pay scale. So I don't exactly know how that happened, but I know that we had a couple and we no longer have any except for one, I believe. And it's not a large salary employee, so.
Good to have it just in case.
Correct. That might equate to a couple $100 at max.
Okay.
You've had a lot of turnover this year. You've changed a lot of jobs
Mm-hmm.
for your staff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a template or what their position's supposed to be, or I'm just curious about some of the nomenclature, administration assistant, senior secretary. I'm not real sure how have they changed?
So I know that the administrative assistant and the senior secretary, those were in place, those positions and titles were in place before I got here. So I know that the administrative assistant title was to streamline similar jobs. So we have an administrative assistant of utility billing, an administrative assistant of accounts payable and payroll, and we have an administrative assistant of basically police administration. So all three of those are support type roles that have different functions, but they're all kind of on the same level. So that was an attempt to kind of have less titles and to try to put them under one umbrella. The senior secretary title is one that's in our service department. And for some reason, that was never, I'm not sure why that one was never just lumped into the administrative assistant title. So that wasn't anything that I changed. So I had removed the assistant to the manager, and that's when we hired a planning and zoning assistant. And then I think that that's the only real change to, that is the only change to title that's happened. Well, we did add a deputy chief, which was part of the plan with the passage of the fire levy. So that was part of that. So that was a new title that was added. Everything else has just been kind of a shifting around of duties. So when the assistant to the manager left, the planning and zoning and code enforcement duties fell to that person, and we didn't hire a code enforcement person either. The planning and zoning person absorbed that. And then the administrative assistant, so we'd lost a clerk of council that was also an administrative assistant, hired a separate clerk of council because that made more sense than having two people, two different bodies to report to, because the clerk with part of the duties reported to the manager and then the other half with council. So we separated that out and then gave that to an administrative assistant role to do HR and payroll and accounts payable, which made sense. So those are all basic clerical functions within an office. So yes, we created the title of planning and zoning assistant, but that was to hire somebody that was qualified and bring their pay in line with what it should be, because it didn't necessarily warrant the assistant to the manager title or pay, but it was higher than administrative assistant. So that needed to be done. And the rest of it was basically just a shifting of duties. But we have had a lot of turnover. We lost a lot of people retired, so it seemed like they all went out in a wave. But that also gave us the ability to be able to hire people in, at some of those starting wages and save a little bit of money and still end up with quality people. So
Yeah, but I guess my question is, to warrant these wages, is there like qualifications they have to meet?
absolutely, yes.
Like if they left here and went somewhere, would they be marketable? As the employee, would they be marketable in skills that are used in those jobs, other places?
Yes, well, the thing that makes us unique is most people wear a number of different hats. We hardly have any people that work for the city, with the exception of police. I mean, because fire, they are medics and they're firefighters. I mean, they're a dual role as well. I mean, just about everybody that works within the city wears more than one hat. Everybody that works in our service department, almost all of them now have their water license, so they're able to work on the water system. They're also able to get in a street sweeper. They're also able to get into a snowplow. Mm-hmm. They can do a number of different things. So that allows them to be able to have a lot of opportunity if they were ever to go anywhere else, because they wear more than one hat. Same as office staff. They all wear a couple of different hats as well. So we are a very slim organization, because we really do maximize our staff. There's not a lot of people that are sitting around with nothing to do. That's quite the opposite around here. So
The steps, you show pay scale steps, is that a annual, biannual?
So the way that those work is it's mostly an annual merit. You can give somebody an annual merit increase. If they're doing a great job, you can move them up a step when they get their annual performance appraisal. The way that it works in the service department, if somebody goes and gets their water license, you can bump them up a step as an incentive to reward them for that hard work, because some of those licenses aren't easy to get. And we don't have people that are going out and getting 2 or 3 licenses a year to really climb up. I think that we have 2 of our service employees that are at the very top step, and they've been with us for a very long time. So yes, those steps are built in for merit, and then they're also built in for performance if there were to get an additional license or some sort of an accomplishment. If somebody went out and got a degree that was an office staff person, we would be able to reward them with that additional step.
Do you encourage that? for-
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely. I'm huge on education and training.
okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious about some of the, you'll see emails, they'll have a different title than what you got here.
It's mostly, it's the administrative assistants. They've got different roles tacked onto the ends.
Kind of confusing. I'm just, I'm looking at it as a citizen,
Yeah.
when you see those things. It's nice to be consistent, with,
That it is, yeah. And I think you said also that there's no one above their pay grade right now.
No.
We have any outliers that are getting paid more than what their step and their grade is. We had that at one point in time. I think we've rectified all that since, but.
Yeah.
yeah, didn't we have somebody was,
There was one
way above
person.
their pay grade because of this increases?
Yeah, that was rectified several years ago, but we did,
Yeah.
so.
So the pay scale, this is pretty much remained the same since I have not changed the structure at all with any of this, except for the addition of the deputy chief and the planning and zoning assistant.
Any more discussion on resolution 2019-T? Hearing none, can we have a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution 2019-T.
In a second?
I'll second.
A motion was made by Mrs. Middlestetter to adopt Resolution 2019-T, a resolution authorizing the city manager to adjust the pay scales of city positions not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. This was seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller?
Yes. Our final resolution this evening, 2019-U, Mrs. Sigurd Lawson.
Thank you. Resolution number 2019-U, a resolution authorizing the city manager to include the position of custodian into the pay scales of the city of Bellbrook. Whereas the city of Bellbrook has used a contracting company for its custodial services over the last several years, and whereas the current custodial agreement with the contractor will be ending, and whereas the city wishes to select and hire its own custodian, which was previously a position within the city, but was removed from the pay scales several years ago, and whereas the city of Bellbrook wishes to add the position of custodian and assign an appropriate pay to the current pay scales, and whereas the pay scales for all other employees will not be adjusted at this time, and whereas the city wishes to incorporate the wage provisions into the general personnel policies of the city. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to include the wages for the custodian for the attached pay scales and ranges effective August 1st, 2019. Section 2, that the attached pay scales and ranges be approved as presented. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. So we're just adding a new job classification.
So here I
Bringing
go,
it back.
adding one.
Bring it back.
So,
Bring it back.
so actually, our senior secretary in the service department was a custodian. That's how she started. And then she took on full-time employment with the service department. And then we ended up contracting with a company, a small company, and we've had the same custodian through that contract through, the last several years. I think it's probably been 7 or 8 years at this point. And he's been wonderful. He's been great. Would have never even thought about having this conversation if he wasn't going away. So in the process of the contracting company trying to find somebody to take his place, they haven't had much luck doing that. So it would actually save us money if we did this on our own, and we would have control over selecting the person and vetting the person and making sure that they're going to fit our needs. With the contracting company, if the person that was assigned to us was sick or on vacation or something, they wouldn't send anybody to fill in. So we would just be without service. So if we have the employee under our purview, we would be able to adjust better than what we could. We didn't have
What's the cost?
flexibility.
What are the
We're
costs?
currently paying $1,000 a month. And the pay scale that we're gonna attach to this is gonna be $10 to $14 an hour, approximately 15 hours a week. Which is what it's about the time that we're getting now.
Any benefits associated with it? Health
No,
or
we would just have to pay the
retirement?
14% PERS. So even with that, if we were to pay somebody at the very top end of that, I think that we were still gonna come out like $100 or $250 short of that $1,000 mark.
Wonder why did we make the decision to outsource it? And no one remembers.
I'm not sure.
I don't recall a discussion on it, to be honest with you.
I don't either.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
mean, it must have been around economics. I think that time may have been cheaper to outsource it.
Could have been, could have been.
Okay.
Those kinds of things tend to go in waves, I understand. Oh, we'll outsource it, and then they find out it's not all so great to
Yeah.
outsource, so then they bring it back in.
I mean, we also had a number of employees too that were above pay scales,
Mhm.
and this goes back probably at least, I don't know, probably closer to 8 or 9 years ago. So there was a big effort to bring those things back in
Yeah.
line. And this could have been one of those casualties, so.
So do we post this out?
Is-
Is that what we do?
Is that custodian for how many buildings?
Just this one.
Just the admin
Mhm.
No,
building?
they don't.
But since they service the police department, I would prefer to be able to select that person if they're gonna be down in our police department.
Yeah.
That's what makes me nervous, is
Uh-huh.
if we let somebody else select the person and they're in our police department,
Mhm.
we don't really have a whole lot of oversight over that. So
Mhm.
I would prefer to be able to select somebody. That way everybody's comfortable with the hire, and the police department can be involved.
Mhm.
So-
You do vetting for that person, right?
Correct.
Background check?
Correct.
Who does the custodial services then for the other building?
They take care of their own. Yep, fire takes care of their own and service takes care of their own. So it's just this one.
Any further discussion?
How many days a week would you require service? Every day?
Right now, right now, we just get 2 days worth of service and it seems
Okay.
to work out just fine.
Place has always been clean.
Yeah, it has. I mean, the person that we've
Yeah.
had has done an excellent job. And like I said, if that person was continuing on and not, they're staying with the same company, but they're spending their time full-time somewhere else, and they weren't full-time, so it was the opportunity for them to go full-time, but it was gonna be at a different location, and they couldn't do the same. So they've been really trying to find somebody to work on our building, so I think that we have him until the end of the month, which is why I needed to do this sooner rather than later. So with council's approval, I already have the job description and everything ready to roll, and we'll post it tomorrow. Keep it up for about 2 weeks, so 2 days, but we can be flexible, so it'll be a pretty good gig for anybody that's looking to pick up a little bit of extra money, so we're hopeful.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
We have a motion for the adoption of resolution 2019-U.
I move that we approve resolution number 2019-U.
In a second?
I'll second it.
A motion was made by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to adopt resolution 2019-U, a resolution authorizing the city manager to include the position of custodian into the pay scales of the city of Bellbrook. This was seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller?
Yes. This concludes our legislation for this evening. The next item up is the city manager report.
Okay, so just so everybody marks their calendars, the downtown assessment recommendations will be presented next week, Thursday, July 18th. There are going to be 3 different parts to this. Well, there's going to be obviously some staff interaction as well, but there will be a few different meetings. Jeff, our consultant, had brought up the possible formation of a board. This would be a chance for anybody that might be interested in that to come and ask some questions about what that might look like. Obviously, no decisions have been made as to, whether or not a board is going to be formed, but it'll be an opportunity for people to just be able to ask questions about what would one of those boards look like if we were to implement something like that. So that'll be at noon on the 18th at El Toro in their large meeting room. So anybody that's interested can just come have lunch on their own and just be able to talk about what that could look like with our consultant. And then at 5:30, there will be a meeting, much like the last time, with council and all the boards. I tacked on a half an hour, so I pushed it back to 5:30 versus 6, because I feel like there could be some more dialogue that occurs with the recommendations that are being presented. So that'll be council, planning board, BZA, village review board. So that'll be 5:30. I'm still trying to nail down the location. The school wasn't available, so we're trying to get the middle school, but Dr. Kozad is still trying to work out a logistic. So I will let everybody know once the location is solidified, but I'm hoping to have that by week's end, absolutely. If I have to go with a plan B, I'll go with, well, if I have to go with a plan C, I will. And then there will be, after the meeting with the council and the boards, there will be another public presentation at 7 o'clock. So again, those two meetings will be in the same place, just different rooms, kind of like what we did the last time. So I'm trying to get that out there every way that I can, but not having a location yet has been kind of a hang up, but I'm hopeful. So just to let everybody know that on June 24th, I had a meeting with officials from all over the county for a Greene County Master Trails Plan. So this idea was pitched by regional planning and some other parks officials. So the thought is to get all of the municipalities from the entire county to pass a resolution and possibly monetary amount to be determined. And it would obviously be based on size, things like that, but to develop a master plan for Greene County trails. So I know that the Miami Valley has a plan, but you know, they can assign what they think should happen in our county, but it would be nice to have our own plan. So everybody seems to be very favorable towards the creation of this plan. It could be very complex, it could be very basic. That's still, all those details are still being worked out, but it was pretty much just a preliminary conversation. There was probably 30 people in a room. We all got around maps, looked at where the possible connections could be and what are already parts of other plans and what are already in the works, and it was a really good meeting. So there may be a proposal come to council for at least a resolution to support a plan, and then there could be a small monetary commitment that goes to the formation of that plan, to be determined yet still. So I think that everybody was in the same, had the same feeling about trying to keep those costs down as low as possible, but still try to develop a nice plan to be able to everybody get behind and kind of at least put on a map where we would like to see connections, and then possibly try to prioritize from there. So it was a good thing, and I'm hopeful that will move forward. Farmers Market is expanding. The vendors really wanted to do this, so this was a result of them saying we want to be here more. So without going full on every weekend, we're going to do the second and fourth Saturday of every month. So that will start this month in July. We have a few new vendors that are coming on. So the farmers market will be this Saturday, and then in another 2 Saturdays. So we've got a food truck at every single one of them. There's actually a Bellbrook resident is starting a coffee truck. So they're going to actually have really fancy coffee drinks, which is pretty exciting. We've got a number of new vendors that have signed on. So this thing's really taken off. So it's been really great. So we will have 2 new officers to be sworn in at the next meeting. So this is taking the place of Jim Burns when he got promoted to sergeant. And then the second one is one of the officers that resigned a few weeks ago, maybe a month or 2 now at this point. So we'll have 2 officers starting on the same day. They actually start next Monday, and they'll come in and be sworn in. And I have one of their names, and I could not get the second one sorted out before I walked in here. So that's exciting. So that'll put police department up to full staff. So that's it for me.
Well, it's on the Greene County Master Trails Plan. Were commissioners in attendance at that meeting? Or?
One was for partial.
Okay. Any other questions to the city manager?
I just got a question about the sign downtown for the plaza, and then there's a billboard on the bridge. Is that something that we've made an exception to, or?
They asked us if we would put it up and we did. The one that's advertising the Saturday street fairs. Since it's a community event, we decided to support it and put the sign up for that.
So, I get a lot of questions about it, especially the one on the walkway. That
On the
kind of
bridge.
detracts from it's a safety sign. I don't know if that's
Which one? The one on the bridge?
the crosswalk in town, Middletown.
Oh, the one that directs back to the plaza.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a walkway sign.
yeah.
Kind of detracts from that, I think.
That's a temporary sign that's up right now. We were trying to figure out what to do with that. With the closing of that access point where the dairy shed was, we're trying to redirect traffic to the main entrance of the plaza that's down by Bellhop on Northwest Street. So the thought was the giant sign is gonna be changed, and the intention was to make all of the signs very cohesive in color and font and things like that to direct people back. So that's a temporary sign that's attached right there until, it was just kind of a trial. So,
The reason I bring it up, that's the most dangerous intersection we have in the city. Been a lot of discussion about that crosswalk. being
Northwest
dangerous.
Street, the one at Northwest
Yeah.
Street.
The crosswalk isn't very well defined,
And
and that's
We've
been a
been-
discussion too.
we've been talking about that.
Didn't we pass something recently that said we're gonna redo that intersection?
There's gonna be a sidewalk added along Northwest Street.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so there will be a curb and a sidewalk, so right now people are walking in the street
Right.
to get back to the plaza. So we got a grant for that, and that work will be completed next year, but. Yeah, as for the crosswalk, Ryan and I have had a couple of discussions because there are a lot of places that do really creative things with crosswalks. Like they'll actually paint murals in them, and I'm sure that you guys have seen on the internet some of the ones that are like 3D and it looks like you're gonna run into something. Not to say that that's what we would do, but people paint 3D things that are supposed to be attention grabbing and make people slow down. So we were even looking at whether or not that's legal, and just something to be a little bit more stand out. So we have been looking at options for that crosswalk, but I mean, it's tough because removing that access point was relieving one safety, concern. And how do we redirect people and not create another safety concern? So I totally understand that.
So the sign was put up because of that closing?
It was to try to because people were so used to pulling in right there to get back there. It's to redirect people to go around what is actually the main entrance on, I think it's actually called Bellbrook Plaza Drive, or Plaza Drive or something like that.
You're right, one of those.
Yeah, so that is actually the dedicated main entrance to the plaza. So trying to change people's habits. And now that it's been closed for a couple of months, maybe that directional sign doesn't need to be up very much longer. So it's just something that we're trying to figure out, because I know that businesses were concerned about people understanding where to go and when they don't have that cut through anymore. And there's so many signs down through there. It really limits what you can do. So, it's definitely taken some thought with everybody trying to figure out what is the right option to try to direct people back there. And the temporary one that's up might not be the right option. But we need to find some sort of a solution to kind of guide people there, because I think that, I know that I've heard a number of people say that, nobody really knows that the plaza is back there, and we need to do a better job of wayfinding in the community, which is part of the comprehensive plan is wayfinding, so.
And people also ask about whether or not that's ever gonna be opened back up again, and probably the answer is no, right? I mean, is that, we have no intentions of ever opening back up where Dairy
It's
Shed-
actually on private property, so it's
Okay.
not, that's what's really funny, and I think that I brought this up the last meeting. The city does own an alley, and it's actually behind the large sign. So if you're standing and looking at the dairy shed, you see the big sign that says Bellbrook Plaza and has all the names of all the businesses, and there's like some flowers or landscaping or something. If you look to the right of that sign, which is technically behind it, there's some broken up asphalt that kind of goes back in a path along a fence. That's the city-owned alley. So,
There's like 5 of them go through there.
yeah, but most of them are, they're very clear, they're still paved,
Yeah.
but that one, I mean, there's no way it could ever be operational. So where that entrance is actually closed down is a private parking lot.
Okay.
So I know that the thought is to, take out that asphalt that's right there and put a curb in and make that a little more appealing, put some grass in
Permanent,
and
yep.
things like that, make it more permanent. So this was just a temporary fix to see, is it gonna work out, what do people think about it? And so I'm not sure when a permanent solution might be sorted out, but I think most people are favorable towards that change.
But doesn't the city also have an alleyway or a dedicated streetway that goes from the end down by Dots down to Bellhop?
Correct.
It goes through the whole plaza,
Yes.
the length of the plaza.
Yes, we do.
As well as that one that none of us knew was there.
Well, and actually, the owner of the plaza is working to resurface that whole thing back there, and he even resurfaced the alley. And he asked the city if there was anything that we could do, and we didn't have anything budgeted, so we offered to pay for the striping, which was $600. So for $600, that whole thing got paved, and the city owns it. So I think we made out on that deal.
Well, we got utilities in that alley. We got a big main water pipe runs right through the middle of it.
Yeah, the alley that goes behind, yeah, but the one that's next to the dairy shed, I'm not really sure what the deal is with that one.
Yeah.
But yes, we do own the one that's back there.
That's
and-
what I thought, the
yeah.
one I always knew about was
Yeah.
the
If we're-
length of the plaza.
If we're not using it for anything, should we try to sell it or?
We could
deed to
vacate it.
somebody or somebody?
Yeah, we could,
It's only a few feet wide.
Probably vacated, just we don't have any liabilities.
yeah, we should vacate it,
Somebody's stumbling
actually.
on it.
Yeah, because it's interesting. The next time you walk by there, look at it. Because, you can tell it
Yeah.
used to be something, but
Yeah.
not for a very long time.
I've walked by that so many times and I don't remember ever seeing it.
It looks like a path, is what
Mhm.
it looks like, but it's actually a city-owned alley that goes really to nowhere,
Mm.
so.
Have you had any of the boards look at coming up with some ideas about some of the, like a banner or something that would hanging above the street or something like that?
Well, the
I mean-
banners above the street, that's tricky,
Yeah.
because
And they're
A, we
temporary.
don't own any of the poles, and B, they have cracked down on that quite a bit to the point where I was just told a couple weeks ago that we're only allowed to have banners hang 180 days out of the year, and if they hang any more than that, we get fined $10 a day. And there's no longer anything that requires electricity allowed to be attached to a pole, which means we would never be allowed to put snowflakes up ever again, which
That's interesting.
I'm really upset by.
Yeah. Can we put some poles up of our own?
Well, this is one of the things that I've actually been trying to work on. So DP&L owns half the poles, and Miami Valley Lighting, which is a subsidiary of Dayton Power and Light, owns the other half of the poles. I know exactly who owns what. And I had asked Miami Valley Lighting to give me some prices as to what it would cost to erect our own decorative lighting, because they're not going to put in decorative lighting, but we could. So she told me that, we could pay for them, we could pay for them outright, or we could, purchase them and put some money down and, make payments or installments. And I was supposed to have pricing May 1st, and I didn't. So then I called back, and I was supposed to have pricing June 1st, and I didn't. And I haven't been able to circle back around yet. But my thought is that if we can do just, the 2 blocks on Franklin and the 2 blocks on Main, and maybe we do half a block a year, after 8 years, maybe we can get poles down every piece, because they're not, it's all going to depend on how tall they are and how much light they cast, and that'll determine how many we need and how far apart they need to be. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns at this point, but I think it would be really nice if at least we could get 4 poles a year or something.
So
But that's a
decorative lighting, I think, it would help spruce up the downtown.
It really would.
Yeah.
That
It's
would be-
expensive, but
Right.
if we did it incrementally, I mean, it's gonna look strange for a couple of years until we get through it, but, I
But
mean,
that would be additional lighting to the lights that are above, so you're adding light.
well,
Or
we
you could
wouldn't, we would
take 'em
just,
down,
yeah, we
yeah.
would
It's
not,
probably a bridge contract.
because we pay rent for those poles, so we would just negate that contract,
attachment.
and I don't know if they would probably remove the lights, I mean, we could probably work that out, I'm not sure what would happen yet, but my intention is those lights would be replaced with the decorative lights.
Okay, so we wouldn't be adding additional light.
No, that's not my
pollution to the
intention.
city.
No, that's not my intention, no. So it's been very difficult to work through that, but I'm trying.
Is there any reason given for not allowing snowflakes and that type of thing?
Well, they don't want anything plugged in, period. So,
I mean, well, that's obvious, but did they give a logical reason for it?
no. And I
Probably-
even tried to question it, and
Probably just a change in policy.
it's just a change in policy.
Because it's a big out-of-town company that isn't. State
All I
road.
know is that people were so excited when those snowflakes went up
Yes.
this year, and for them not to go up again, like, it literally
We're
almost
gonna hear about it.
brought me to tears when they told me that in email. I said, so you're telling me that I can't put up snowflakes? And he said, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And I was, we just got them back.
Just send everybody to that new owner of the utility company.
Pass out his name and phone number to everyone.
Uh-huh, absolutely.
Yep.
It's what happens when you lose control of your local companies.
So we'll stay tuned with the decorative lighting situation, because then when we have decorative lighting, we can put anything on those poles that we want to. If we want to wrap them in garland, we can.
Yeah.
If we want to wrap them in lights, we can. If we want to put snowflakes up, we can.
So you're saying that we can't put snowflakes up?
That's right.
We don't own, the only poles that we own that have the outlets are right here at the main intersection. That's it. So even our banners.
Those are the ones we just bought last year or 2 years ago.
Yes, so even our, no, those ones are the ones at Little Sugar Creek. The ones, but those don't have,
I thought we put in new poles at Main Street down here. We did the camera and the sensor and all that stuff. That was like $36,000 like 2 years ago. I think
oh,
when
I
Mark
don't
was
know.
here.
I don't
That
know.
was one of the last big things we did.
And
We
when
put
you
that
change the
turn lane in.
When you put the turn lane in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Put the turn lane in.
So we
That's
own those 4
Yes.
poles then, right?
Yes, we own those 4 poles.
Yeah.
But that's all we own. So even our banners that we have, we can only keep them up 180 days out of the year.
Was that something that just recently came up?
Uh-huh. I just got the email probably 2 weeks ago. Because I was trying to get Sugar Maple Festival to buy banners for the festival to put up every year. And then I was gonna design a summer banner, and then, so we would have the Sugar Maple one that went up after the snowflakes, and then we would have a summer one. And then we would still have our Bellbrook ones, but those are starting to fade really bad. But those would probably be replaced with something maybe with the fall.
Is that something that other cities have experienced? Is that a
Most
policy of-
most people have moved to decorative lighting and they own their own pools. Almost everybody that's got a nice downtown has completed a streetscape project where they've put in decorative lighting and they own the poles.
So that's a new policy from the new power company,
Yeah.
IEC or ICS, whatever.
AES.
What's
ACS.
their name?
AES.
AES. Oh, that's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Well, so one comment on the crosswalks out at Austin Landing, they painted them kind of a deep brick red. And then they're, on both sides of them, they have a white and a black line painted, so you can see them a little bit better coming through. You can tell it's something different. Not as neat as having a mural or something like that, but it still sets them off. And they've got a little different stamping in the stone, so it comes across kind of a checkerboard type pattern a little bit without just, one solid color, but they're a little bit more noticeable and obvious because they had the same problem between the intersections, people just shooting right through and not paying attention.
And I'm not sure if that's considered a private street, unfortunately, in Austin Landing, the way that, 'cause since that's a private development area. Like the streets in the green, they
I
would
think
have
it's
more
dedicated, but I'm not
flexibility.
sure.
So, yeah, with that being a state route and everything too,
Yeah,
I mean, it
pretty
just,
limited.
it complicates things.
It really does.
Yeah, I would really like to do something, I mean, even if we did it a different color, other
Yeah,
than
if-
just white.
If we can just paint something on it that's very attention grabbing,
Yeah.
that makes it obvious
I think-
that it's a crosswalk.
Part of the problem is that the street is so wide at that point, if someone is standing there getting ready to cross,
you don't really see them until they're like already sort of out into the crosswalk.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
and I know, and a lot of people know that you're supposed to stop when someone's standing in the crosswalk. You're supposed to
Mhm.
stop and wait for them, but I think people don't because they don't see them until they're already.
Well, and they're not geared to thinking of people in a crosswalk in Bellbrook.
That's what I was just
It's-
getting ready to say.
and
They're
they
not
don't pay
attuned to
attention.
picking up on that. There aren't a lot of pedestrians, so people aren't trained to be on the lookout for them downtown.
We haven't enforced the crosswalk, the people in a crosswalk. We haven't enforced that. We need to get really intentional about.
Well, we'll also
that
be
whole
adding
idea.
that mid-block crossing
Mhm.
that's gonna go from basically the lawnmower shop over to Dots,
Mhm.
closer to the funeral home.
Yeah.
We were just out there at a scoping meeting for that project today, and
Yeah.
that'll help too, so.
Yes.
It's a very busy area too.
It is.
Yep.
It was scary standing, we stood out
Well-
there for almost an hour and it's terrifying.
725 is a major route. It's a
Mhm.
state route.
True.
There was a question at one of the business meetings a month or so ago about truck traffic coming in Maine. And you were gonna check with the chief of police.
I totally forgot about that, Forrest. I'll do that.
They don't have any other way to go either.
I know, it was,
There's
it was a
one
question that ought to be answered, so.
Yeah. So we've got one street going each way,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Well, and when you're trying to shoot north too, Little Sugar Creek's no through trucks, so that limits how you're gonna get north.
Yep.
And we definitely don't want them on Little Sugar Creek.
Nope.
So that's hard. How do you get people going north?
Yeah.
It has
They
to
gotta
be
send them
Main
past
Street.
the school and they don't wanna get drive through a school zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During moments of the
Yeah.
year.
I'll get with them. I honestly
Yeah,
forgot about it,
it may
Forrest.
be a go or no-go. It'd be nice
Yeah.
to just check it out, you know,
Yeah.
because there is a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
Anything else for the city manager tonight?
No.
No,
That being said, we move on to committee reports. Service,
nothing for service tonight.
safety.
Just one little note, tornado sirens, briefly spoke with Mike Pittman, asked if they were interested in getting together with tornado sirens, and he said, it's funny you mentioned that, we've been talking about it, so I'm gonna go to one of their meetings and bring it up to all of them, and we'll see if we can get something going. He sounded like he's interested, so
Good to know.
that sounds good.
Yep.
That's all I have, thanks.
For finance and audit, I'll cover it. We have the audit complete. Has the financial statements been posted to the website yet?
They weren't the last time I checked. I checked last Tuesday and they weren't up, but I haven't checked since then.
We got a wrap-up call with the auditors tomorrow, but it's gonna be pretty much a non-event, more of an introduction than anything else. But the audit went very good. No findings, and it's done in a very timely manner, much sooner than our typical November release, so we appreciate that. Community affairs.
We have a number of applications in for the vacant council seat, and we will be scheduling interviews, and the intention is to have a nominee presented to council at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. The next item we have is old business, and here we indicated we want to talk about the required materials for further discussion of the Bellbrook Mountain proposal. And I think in everyone's packets, Pam instructed everyone to bring your ideas forward, and I think what the goal is, and I'll let the city manager further expand upon it, but I think the goal is to identify what our issues are, what we want looked at before we move forward, because this is certainly a big undertaking for the city. And given we have no income tax, it's not going to provide revenue to the city, but they're certainly asking the city to be kind of a partner with them. And I think to the extent we don't partner with them, it's not a deal that can be done. So I think we're a key player in this whole thing, and there's not much in it for us, sad to say, other than some better exposure for Bellbrook. But as far as our finances go, it doesn't move the dial, so.
So there was a presentation given by the Kirchers about what they would like to do. So there wasn't a whole lot of substance outside of the idea that was given to council. So the way that it was left is that council would have a work session with staff to discuss the proposal before they, a strategy to move forward was developed. So I sat down and I met with Jeff, our planning and zoning assistant, and I met with Ryan, our service director, and we would just like to know what information council would like for us to present, because we don't feel like it's staff's responsibility necessarily to create things. That would be on the part of the business, but we need to know what kinds of things council would like to see, and if we need to get that from the business owner, we can do that. If there are questions that council has that we haven't necessarily thought of, it would just be good to have all of that ahead of time so that we don't give information based on some of the ideas and questions that we had if council has some maybe different questions that we hadn't considered yet. So I just want to make sure that when we all sit down as a group for that work session, that we are bringing exactly what council is interested in seeing or understanding that they don't currently. And I know that some of this stuff isn't necessarily going to be anything that we might be able to provide, but we might be able to get that information from the Kirchers to bring back to council as well. So I just need to know what people are interested in. I can say that from my standpoint is I'm really concerned about the water.
Yep.
I know that the conversations that we had had leading up to this, in the months the months that preceded the actual presentation, there was going to be a pond built, and that was where the water was going to come from. And then when the presentation occurred, there was talk about it coming from the Little Sugar Creek. So I'm concerned about that. So I've already been having discussions with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and was instructed and given contacts for the EPA and possibly the Army Corps of Engineers. So I'm going down that path because I think that that's a very important piece to figure out before we think about anything else. Because if the water is an issue to make the snow, then you can't really have a snow tubing hill without the snow. So that's kind of what I've latched onto. But I want to know if there's anything else that's really on the minds of council that they're interested in the preliminary discussions as all of this starts to unfold.
Melissa, I might ask council, do you want to give ideas tonight, or are we going to send an email into city staff and then have them compile a listing, and then we have that listing will be our agenda. She can go through and identify any duplication. I think we've all had concerns about liability.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, on down the road, if this project is vacated, who's going to clean up the mess, or we need a bond to get that done?
Do we need extra staffing of fire and police
Yeah,
on days that they're
security
open
issues.
late, things like
Yeah.
that?
I think the best thing is, everybody agrees, is just put together your list and try to send it into Melissa by, the end of this week, hopefully.
That would
And
be
then we
good.
can compile a comprehensive listing, and then you can send that back out, and then we have our work session. That can be our guidance.
Okay.
Because I know that everybody's probably going to have concerns from different angles, and I just want to make sure that everybody's concerns are addressed and we don't have to go back and forth a lot just for the sake of time. Because I know that they're really interested in trying to move this forward, but we need to get some of our questions answered first, so.
I think one of the main things that was brought up is there's basically not supposed to be any cost at all to the city, right?
Well, that's what they
within
said.
reason.
And if we're gonna let them use our land, do we get something for that? I mean, I don't know.
Right, I mean, that's a valid question. Is it
Mhm.
going to be rent-free, or should we charge them rent?
Because I would think as a city, we would at least have our own attorney or attorneys, make sure that we don't put ourselves in harm's way with lawsuits and stuff.
Sure.
Maybe we should ask them to pay the legal fees. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, bond, like you
know,
said.
I don't know if they understand, we don't get much out of this other than
No.
some exposure on the map, but I mean, businesses may do better. I get all that part, but as far as financially, for the extent that we incur expenditures in this manner, financially, we're not gonna be repaid unless we ask for it up front.
Sure.
We're just asking for more traffic on our two main streets.
So I mean, if that
Yeah.
right there to me was either a no or no go, you know, as far as,
So let's all put together a list of whatever your items are, and then give you a couple days to think about them, then we'll send them in to Melissa, and then we'll get it consolidated. And then you can,
Then we can do a work session before, we need to do it before budget season kicks up,
yeah,
so
definitely.
that's the plan.
And it sounds like they wanna move fast, so
Mhm.
like, they would like to meet with us probably today if we wanted to,
Mhm.
but.
now, some of these questions, will they go to Mr. Kircher?
If it's something that we aren't able to answer and only he could, then
Yeah.
yes,
Because I have
because,
some questions for him.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% sure of the exact acreage that's needed. I need to understand that absolutely. What type of acreage are we talking about? So there are certain things that definitely we need some more firm details on.
Right.
And I understand it from his standpoint, he doesn't really want to funnel a lot of money into a solid business and site plan if it's something that council's not even interested in, pursuing, and they think that the idea is terrible. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. He needed to at least gauge council to be able to determine whether or not
Yeah.
this is even a possibility, because they will rely so much on us and our resources.
Like they present us with a lot of information for kind of a short night, and I know we had the article in the newspaper, and
Yeah.
everybody's been talking about that a little bit too, so it's moving.
It was on the news as well.
Yeah.
Was it? I didn't see that.
I wonder if they've considered in the summertime using it as a grass sled hill. I've heard of those kinds of places where you sled on grass.
Or it could be a giant slip and slide.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion on that for right now? Okay. New business, the process of filling the vacant city council seat. Is that gonna be addressed by Ms. Timmons? I'm sorry, Mrs. Timmons.
Yes, so, due to, Mr. Baird moving outside of the city limits, he had to resign his position as mayor. The way our charter reads for the city, what happens automatically in that situation is that the deputy mayor becomes the mayor. So, Mr. Schweller was deputy mayor, so therefore he became our mayor at that point. He's been sworn in, he's our mayor. But then that brought up several things. So we now have a vacant seat, and according to our charter, that seat must be filled within 60 days. If it's not filled, then I must inform the Board of Elections, and a special election would have to be performed at that point. So that gives us until August, is that the 14th?
14th, I believe.
Yes, August the 14th would be the deadline for having a new council person in place. So we advertised on the website and through our news outlets that there was an opening, and we accepted applications through Friday, June 28th. And we've received a number of applications. The next step is that council will review the applications and make decisions about who they would like to bring in for interviews. Tentatively looking at doing the interviews next Monday, since Mondays are a general meeting day for council. I do know that there are 2 applicants who are not available this coming Monday. So that's something to be considered. The plan is that here in a few moments, the council would excuse to adjourn into executive session so that you can discuss the applicants that we have at this point. And then once you've interviewed everyone, hopefully a decision can be made at the end of those interviews, and offer the position to the new person, and then they would be sworn in at the next council meeting. So, that's.
And they would be taking the unexpired term, right?
And that's.
We've got to sort out part of
Yes,
that.
so
Okay.
our new municipal attorney we've already been speaking with him on these issues and trying to figure them out, just because due to how this is all falling with elections coming up for the different seats and how that all works, that's kind of changed how we've been trying to figure out how that works, because Mr. Schweller's council seat is through the term of December 31st of 2021. But part of the charter makes a comment that a person taking an unexpired seat has to then be, at the next election, elected into that seat.
Mhm.
That's what Daryl had to
So,
do.
That's what we've all had.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what Daryl had to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay. And I thought that had to do with the timing of the amount of time you were in the position. So that's kind of in question with the candidates also.
Mhm.
Are very curious
Mhm.
to how that plays out, so.
Well,
So,
if-
yeah.
if they, and so if we appoint
Yeah.
this person, and it's candidate A, I'm not
Mhm.
even gonna say who it is, but if we appoint candidate A, and then they take over the unexpired term, then they would have to run this
It's November.
And-
November.
I don't know,
Yes.
that they don't have time
They don't
though.
have
They don't
time,
have
Because they have to have their
time, because they
positions
won't-
by August.
Right, August 7th
And we
is
have
the
until the
deadline.
14th to appoint, so.
Right, so,
Yeah.
We might not get there. I mean, if council, I mean,
Ca-
you guys
well,
are gonna talk about it and try to schedule interviews, but like Pam said, 2 of the people already can't do it on the date that, was
Trying to- yeah.
kind of
Right.
thrown out there, so.
yeah.
We have until the 14th and petitions have to be turned in by the 7th, so I
So-
don't think that it's reasonable to,
Well, they just have to run the next election.
I would, yes.
They'd have to run it the next
Yes.
election,
Right, which
which
means-
is,
Which they would anyway, because the term expires
Correct.
2021, so they.
so, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's,
that fills in.
Okay.
December 31st, 20.
Well, yeah, that's when I
That's
originally.
2 years. 2 years away, not just one.
Correct.
Right.
Right, right.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah, I'm in the middle of my
usually
term,
on-
so I've got 2 years left on my council seat.
Right, so,
We're sorting it all out.
yeah.
It's- It's been complicated.
Let's keep using the attorneys.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not guessing.
We're not guessing on
No.
this one. That's right.
Okay, so, yeah, I probably didn't really answer.
We get one question
Fully-
answered and then another one comes
Yeah.
up.
Every time we turn around.
Yeah, we've had some differences of opinion as well.
Yeah.
So, new city attorney, differences of opinion, and we've had a couple different conversations, so it's starting to get take on a life of its own, I guess. All right, anything else for Pam?
Nope.
Thank you, Pam. Good presentation on a confusing matter. Open discussion. We'll start with Mr. Edwards.
I don't think I had anything tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing, Mayor.
Daryl?
Doing my homework on the tornado sirens
Okay.
here. And one of the things that I've come to put together here is the fact that, nothing would substitute for good common sense from our viewers out there, that, eye to the sky, as they usually say, watch what's there. But there's 3 plans of action that the government recommends that we utilize for warning systems itself. One is nothing beats a NOAA weather radio. That they're typically around $29 a piece. Several manufacturers make them, and that goes directly to the Weather Bureau that would send signals out to if you're in your home. The other one is the hyperlink system. You want to make sure that you have a landline at home, that you get registered with the hyperlink system so that you can get those county-wide emergency issues read to you. And then the third thing is the outdoor sirens themselves. And they have to meet a federal decibel level for sound. I believe it's 138 decibels is what it has to be registered to. But it appears that we could have the city separated into quadrants where we have concentration of most people. If we wanted to put those up someplace, there would be around $20,000 a piece, buying the equipment, the installation, and the software to manage it and connect it with the emergency management system here in Greene County. It looks as if the full concentration, we have new property up here by the high school, and the homes that went into those subdivisions up there, plus the downtown area, plus one on the fringe on the western end of the county. The city here should give us the coverage that we need if we were going to do something outside. So there is FEMA money that's available in grants for certain items like this. So I would say for around $100,000 budgeted, we could pick something up, most of it, which would be covered by a grant, if we so decided to look at that.
Is there an
Good to know.
annual, is
Huh?
there an annual cost beyond the installation and the setup?
Well, there would be costs associated with testing
Testing.
and to make sure that they're in operational order, because
Yeah.
if you put them in, you
And
know,
then updating software?
updating software, yes, yes, exactly.
Everything.
So everything, so it's not just, it's just not an easy,
No.
thing to look at here
No, it isn't.
and that, but, you know, there is a way around it, and that's the recommendation that the government gives
Okay.
for putting those in.
All right. Thank you, Darrell.
Well,
Elaine?
I don't have anything more.
Donna, welcome back from vacation.
Thank you. Yep, it was a good vacation. I just have one quick thing, and I think it's probably more like informational. For people who don't have kids in the school system, may not be aware they're making changes to school transportation. So all of the juniors and seniors aren't given bus assignments, they have to drive themselves. So I don't know, that's gonna create additional cars pulling into the high school that weren't there before. And they'd be new drivers, so just a little bit of word of caution about, you know, some of the school safety problems. They also are gonna change the starting and end times of the schools, so the high school is gonna go from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock, so that's a later start time. And the kids that are gonna get bused are gonna be bused, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert on this, so everybody do your own homework, but I'm just, they'll have high school students as well as junior high, as well as elementary school students all on the same buses. So there are some people that aren't gonna get buses. So all of those things, I guess I'm bringing it up so that people are aware when school does start, it's gonna be starting at different times. There's gonna be different drivers on the road. And
Is
possibly.
this on the school website too, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I
yeah,
heard
it's
some
on-
talk about it.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Thanks for the update, good. I have nothing for this evening. Do we have anyone in the audience who cares to speak and address this council? Got a couple new faces here, if so, please feel free to come to the lectern, you have 5 minutes. That being said, I want to thank Louis Schatzberger, cameraman, and I also want to end or have a motion to end the public meeting, and we'll now go back to executive session, if I could have a motion to do so.
Motion to move.
And the executive session is to discuss the appointment of a public official, as we mentioned already.
Motion to move. Mayor.
Motion by Darrell, can we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There will be no new business coming out of the executive session, so at this time, the viewing audience, this is the conclusion of the meeting. Thank you.